you doing, guys? Tomato sauce in here, and tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about leveling up your Unholy DK in Dragonflight. So the time has finally come, guys, right? We've hit a lull in where we are in Wrath of the Lich King content, and Blizzard has answered that lull by releasing more retail content. So a new expansion is coming out. If you're living in a box underneath a river somewhere, Dragonflight is coming out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I don't know that I'll have time to jump on tomorrow, but I wanted to kind of take a little time to give you guys some insight and tips, on leveling your characters. Specifically, this will be an Unholy DK video. Essentially, I'm going to give you guys some classic Gnostic tips and some DK specific tips, right? So what are the most important parts of leveling, right? Moving fast through the zone, being able to deal with difficult terrains, and that's pretty much it. Killing mobs fast, right? So what's going to help us do that? Well, I've got the answer for you guys, but before we do, if you could, click subscribe on the video, as it greatly helps me out. And it allows us to continue and grow the channel. So now that we've got that self-promotional nonsense out of the way, let's dive into the tips. So first, we're going to talk about our classic Gnostic tips, right? And what do I mean by that, right? Well, these are tips that any class could leverage in order to level quickly through Dragonflight. So the first tip I'll give you guys is fried bonefish. Buy this off the auction house. It's extremely cheap. You're going to be killing a lot of mobs, and this will give you a speed burst every time you kill an enemy. So you'll be able to go from mob to mob much quicker than you would without this bonefish, this food. The next thing is light step hoof plates. So you're actually going to put this in your mount equipment slot, overwrite whatever's there. Anytime you're on a ground mount in Dragonflight, you'll be moving 20% faster. And that's really nice for us as DKs because we have faster mount speed anyway, right? So light step hoof plates are my second tip. Now, my third tip, it belongs to the gem category. So there's actually 3 gems you can use. And as you can see, I have 15.43% speed or 169 speed stacked because I only had 3 gem slots in this armor. But I dropped a 13 Shadowlands gem, so 13 speed for every gem I have in my equipment. Then I dropped a 28 speed gem here, and then I went ahead and dropped in my necklace a 19 speed gem. So if you want these gems, let's say you only have 2 gem slots, just search Straddling on the auction house. That'll pull up Straddling Sage Agate and Straddling Viridium. And then the Shadowlands gem is called Straddling Jewel Doublet. So those 3 gems, and the more gems you have, the merrier, right? You can then like throw versatility gems or mastery gems or haste gems in your other gear, and that Shadowlands speed gem is just going to give you 13 for each Shadowlands gem that you have there. So those are my tips on moving quickly through the content. Now, what are the Unholy DK specific tips? Here's the build I'll be using as I level through the content. You guys have seen I've done some Unholy DK content in the past on the beta. Well, for me, when leveling in a new expansion, it's always really important to me if I can kill elites on my own, and this build will allow you to do that. First, let's go through the class-specific side of the build. As you can see, I'm also taking all of the utility that I can, especially defensive, because I'll be leveling through Dragonflight with war mode on just to get that 10% extra experience. So I start out grabbing Chains of Ice, going down to Mind Freeze, taking Blinding Sleet in case I have to deal with a PKer or a big pack of mobs. Maybe I want to just walk away for a second. And then I take that down to Icebound Fortitude so that I do have a wall. I'm not coming in and taking Acclamation. I don't think I'll need it leveling up. Then we go down into the Death Strike node. I take Anti-Magic Shell, big Death Strike, 2 out of 2 Veteran of the Third War, but most importantly, March of Darkness. So this just goes into that whole notion of moving faster through the content. Death's Advance grants an additional 25% movement speed over the first 3 seconds. This thing makes you move quite quick, and I'll show you how fast I am in a moment. Now, I then move down to Anti-Magic Zone, Asphyxiate, Death Pact, and Wraith Walk. I think all 4 of these are incredible utility spells. I really can't see a version of Death Knight where I don't take all 4 of these spells. Take that down to Will of the Necropolis. Again, an incredible talent for PvP, PvE, Mythic Plus, rating. I don't think there's a scenario where you don't take this. It just gives you so much more survivability, especially because it can proc. Let's say you're at 100% health, it can actually proc on a hit that would have killed you. So Will of the Necropolis is massive. This was a talent formerly only given to Blood Death Knights, and now all 3 Death Knight specs can get it. You won't see a Death Knight without these talents. I take this down to Rune Mastery, which is just consuming a rune has a chance to give us more strength. That's huge damage. And then I take that down to Abomination Limb, because really, this is a signature Death Knight ability at this point. Again, you really can't imagine an iteration of Death Knight without A-Bomb Limb. They did a great job on that ability. Now, here's where we're going to get our cleave. As you can see in the class tree, we're not taking Epidemic. We're going more single target focused. But by taking Cleaving Strikes, our Death and Decay will allow our Clawing Shadows to hit up to 7 additional enemies. So you're going to be bursting wounds. You're going to be cracking every enemy that's in your Death and Decay. Cleaving Strikes is massive. Going to be really good for Mythic Plus as well. Then I'm going to take Enfeeble. This is just making sure those big elites, they're going to do 15% less damage to me. My ghouls attacks essentially have a chance to cast this spell on them, and then they'll do less damage to me. So again, in the notion of, I want to make sure we stay alive fighting elites one-on-one, and Feeble is going to be a good talent to help us out with that. Then this goes down to Brittle. This is just 6% more damage. Our diseases have a chance to proc this, so we're going to do 6% more damage. I take this down to Might of Thessarian, more strength, never a bad thing for Death Knights. Then I go on Holy Endurance, so we have a longer Lichborn, and we get a 15% wall, absolutely huge. And with this new iteration of Death Knights, we have runic power for days, so you will be able to get off quite a few Lichborn Death Coils if you need to. I take this to Unholy Ground, and this is just giving us more haste. Haste is going to be huge, for us as we're leveling up, because we're going to lose some stats. Yep. Well, then we go into haste as well. Now I am also going to take this down to Death's Echo, and what this is Death's Advance, Death and Decay, and Death Grip have 1 additional charge. So it's absolutely massive. It ties into, my whole theme of we want as much speed as we possibly can while we're leveling through Dragonflight. So this is going to make sure your Death's Advance has an additional charge, but really you're also getting an additional charge of Death Grip and Death and Decay. And Death and Decay has a huge synergy with Clawing Shadows, which we take in the Unholy class tree, or the Unholy spec tree. So let's go through what our spec tree is, and I'll go over why we're doing it this way, right? So take Festering Strike into Scourge Strike into Outbreak into Unholy Blight, because we're just going to try to buff our pets big time. I take Improved Festering Strike into Apocalypse into Magus of the Dead, and then I take Unholy Command 2 out of 2, because I want to keep my cooldown staggered on a 45 to minute and a half cooldown cycle, essentially. So we have Gargoyle at 3 minutes, we have Apocalypse at a minute and a half, and we have Dark Transformation and Unholy Blight at 45 seconds. So those are our windows, essentially, that we're working with. Kind of sucks that Abomination Limb is a 2-minute cooldown, but we'll deal with it. We'll make it work. Now from here, I take Raise Dead, Dark Transformation, Infected Claws, Sudden Doom, Clawing Shadows, because this has an incredible synergy with Cleaving Strikes. Even if the mobs are not in your Death and Decay, as long as you are, you're going to cleave everything. So Cleaving Strikes is huge. Then you have Improved Death Coil. Death Coil deals 30% additional damage, and it seeks out 1 additional nearby enemy. So we're getting some, you know, multi-target cleave here that, you know, we're kind of missing outside of just our outbreak and these cleave with death and decay windows. So improved death coil will be nice for that. Rotten touch. Sudden doom also causes your next death coil to increase your clawing shadows damage against the target by 50%. So you're just going to be doing bigger damage with clawing shadows. I take it into Unholy Pact because we're going to have Dark Transformation up every 45 seconds. This is big AoE. Reaping. This is a built-in passive execute, essentially. It's not just Soul Reaver anymore, or Soul Reaper anymore. It's your Scourge Strike, your Festering Strike, and your Death Coil. They're going to do 20% additional damage to enemies below 35% health. I think this just solidifies Unholy DK as the best single target execute phase class in the expansion, like bright and early. I take this down to Harbinger of Doom, where Sudden Doom can trigger 30% more often, but more importantly, we can now accumulate 2 charges, so we're not just going to munch procs. That's nice. Then big gargoyle damage. It's absolutely huge. Unholy Aura. Enemies within 8 yards of us take 20% increased damage from our minions. And then down to Commander of the Dead, where Dark Transformation is also going to empower our Gargoyle and Army of the Dead. So what is this? All right. So what we're going to do now is just go through the rotation. And essentially this is how I'll be, you know, mowing down elites in Dragonflight, you know, big single target damage. So what we're going to do is we're essentially going to Festering Strike twice, Unholy Blight, then I will Abomination Limb, Gargoyle, Dark Transformation, and wrap it up with Apocalypse. I'm not sure if this is the most optimal rotation, but it feels pretty good to me. So we go in, we Festering Strike twice, Unholy Blight, A-Bomb Limb, Gargoyle, Dark Transformation, buffing everything, and Apocalypse. And now we're just pumping. We're trying to spend as much runic power as possible because we have our Gargoyle up. We also don't want to overcap runes or wounds. And you can see just some quality damage going on the screen here. You know, keeps us over 10k or so. At the end of the day, that's nothing to, you know, nothing to scoff at. So you're going to be pumping here. So in that little amount of time, right, I was able to do almost 400,000 damage. And then you can see Unholy Blight comes up and Dark Transformation comes up. And then you would just come in and you would, you know, use your 45-second cooldowns so that you can then line up Apocalypse with Unholy Blight and Dark Transformation. And that's pretty much it. That is the rotation. So that's what I'll be doing in Dragonflight. I really think Unholy DK is in an awesome spot. As you can see, right, we have Icebound Fortitude, Anti-Magic Shell, Death Pact, Blinding Sleet, Asphyxiate, Anti-Magic Zone, Lichborn with the heal, Strangulate if you're playing with War Mode on. I mean, you know, we have a ton going on. I probably could have dropped Death and Decay in there just to get a little extra haste out of that. I didn't even think about that. But at the end of the day, you know, we're in a very early time for Dragonflight. It comes out tomorrow. There's going to be a ton of optimizations that happen in the future. But for right now, this is kind of how I'm going to play my Unholy DK. And we'll see how it changes as the expansion progresses. That's pretty much it, guys. If you made it this far, drop a subscribe on the channel, like the video, leave a comment. What class are you going to level in Dragonflight first? All right. Have a good day, guys. Tomato sauce and out, right? Take it easy.